If your training course is being run online, there are a whole variety of different training platforms and video conferencing facilities that, of course, you can use. Some of them are easier to use than others, and often you just need to be able to use whatever the trainees themselves find the easiest. Now, with regards to this, depending on where you are in the world or who it is you're interacting with, it is sometimes the cultural norm not to have the camera switched on. It is possible to deliver a training course to a blank screen, but of course, this is much, much more difficult than if you can encourage people, even just one or two, to turn their cameras on. Not only does this mean that you can see if your messages are actually resonating with the groups, but it also means that you have a much simpler way of understanding if people are perhaps offended or they're interested or they're laughing or whatever the case might be with regards to content in that virtual training room as well. So if possible, get people to turn on their videos. In terms of interacting with individuals, some people feel very relaxed at interrupting you when you're delivering a training session. And this is okay, unless, of course, you are desperately trying to get that final message squeezed in right before the end of the training course. This is something here where you can develop a relationship with those individuals, especially if they keep interrupting you, is perhaps send them a message and say, I'm really loving your interaction. Please keep the energy up. However, for this next section, I'm really keen to hear what some of the other people in the room maybe think about that particular situation. Now, that's a very polite way of saying, please shut up, stop interrupting me. You yourself will have different ways in which you like to do this, whatever is your natural style, to try and stop people from interrupting you. The worst thing you can do, though, is to tell someone to just stop or to mute them, because they will find that incredibly offensive. So you need to find a way of interacting with those individuals who may constantly interrupt you with lots and lots of questions. Personally, I like to send them a message or say to them verbally, I am loving all of your suggestions, all of your input with regards to this. Would you be available to stick around after we finish the training course so we can take some of your questions offline? That is usually a really good trigger for them to go, oh, okay, I'm asking too many questions, but you as the trainer are being nice to me and you're being welcoming with regards to what I'm trying to bring to the training course. However, I will take some of them offline later. You'll have other people in that training course for whom turning on a video and speaking in public is the scariest thing that they could ever imagine. So for those individuals, you don't want to force them into doing something like this. Instead, what you want to be able to do is to encourage people to maybe type into the chat what their questions might be or find a different form of interaction with them. Personally, I never force somebody to interact with me. Sometimes it might just be their bandwidth, which is stopping them from doing all of that. But I will try and make sure that even if they're not interacting on the video conferencing platform, I'll send them an email behind the scenes to say, hey, is everything working okay for you? Is this training course giving you what you need? Is there anything else that I can bring into the room for you or share with you that will help you meet your training needs? Quieter people really, really value this particular part of interaction, and they also respect you for not putting them on the spot and getting them to speak in front of everybody else. Another way that you can bring interaction into the room, but also not put people so much on the spot, of course, is to have breakout sessions and breakout exercises. These can work really nicely, especially if you put people into groups of 5 or less. That generally gives people enough space and time to be able to share their thoughts and their feelings. However, when you're allocating people to groups, you need to think quite carefully with regards to who goes into which group, different characters, etc. If you think that things aren't quite working, you might want to change the groups up every time and just make it clear the first time you put people into groups that you will be doing that. So therefore, if they're stuck with someone who they find massively offensive, don't worry, they only need to suffer it for that particular exercise. With regards to breakout group exercises, personally, I like to give people 7 minutes for those exercises. Now, I tell people 7 minutes. That can be a very flexible 7 minutes because you'll be keeping an eye on how well people are doing. in those breakout rooms. So I'd never put a timer on those breakout rooms. I just verbally tell them. And when it comes to that point where I need to bring people back into the main room again, I then send them a message saying you've got 60 seconds left, and then I'm going to automatically bring you back into the main meeting room or the plenary meeting room. If you have people who have very poor bandwidth connection, or maybe they're dialing into your training session on the phone, the trick with regards to breakout rooms is to make sure that you keep them in the main plenary room so that they don't need to click any buttons to be able to get out into a breakout session. Also, if they keep getting picked out of the internet and then coming back in again into the meeting, it means that they're always coming back into the right room, and you're not having to keep an eye to then keep pushing them out into those breakout rooms. So therefore, when you're setting up your breakout rooms, say, for example, you have 15 people on a training course, yes, I would have 3 teams with regards to those breakout rooms themselves, but I'd only set up 2 breakout rooms, keeping one in that plenary room with me. It just saves a whole load of hassle later on with regards to the situation. Finally, with regards to the training courses, don't worry if everything goes wrong. This happens every so often. Personally, I've had people come on training courses who've turned up to the wrong one, but then decided to stay. And so therefore, you need to be able to flex some of that training material that you've got. Also, I've had people that have brought in really quite offensive perspectives, and you need to be able to deal with all of that as well. Provided you, as the trainer, maintain that positive attitude, and also you maintain that curiosity of what each of those participants are actually bringing into the room, it almost doesn't matter how disruptive somebody is trying to be. They will feed off your very infectious curiosity with regards to the subject matter that you're trying to explore as a team. So curiosity and always welcoming in those perspectives. I personally will never use that word no in a training course. It is amazing what the word no does to the energy within the room. It just destroys it. Instead, what I will say is something like, that's a really interesting perspective. Just building on that. Now, that is code, by the way, in the British language to say, I don't necessarily agree what you've just said, but I'm going to explore it anyway. So that's my way of not saying no, but trying to welcome in those perspectives, even if I think that they're really wrong, because you want people to continually explore and discover their own thoughts with regards to the subject matter that you're looking at as well. So with regards to all of this, keeping things fun, exciting, really encouraging that curiosity, encourage people to learn from one another, discover the material, do poke people with regards to really saying, well, do you believe that? Let's think about this from a different perspective, or put ourselves in the shoes and socks of someone else. How would they explore this particular material? It is up to you as the trainer to bring the passion, the excitement with regards to the subject matter into the room. If you think it's going to be a really boring training course, surprise, surprise, everyone who comes to that training course will also think that it is deadly dull. So it's your responsibility to keep the energy up, to keep it fun. And then not only will everybody else learn a huge amount, but you yourself will learn lots as well. Thank you very much.